Welcome to Shaped by Faith with your host, Theresa Rowe. To find out more about Shaped by Faith and Theresa Rowe, please visit shapedbyfaith.com or visit the YouTube channel, Facebook, or Instagram. And now, here is Theresa Rowe.
Welcome to Shaped by Faith, where we shape our bodies and hearts for God's purposes. My guest today is Bill Brady. He is the co-founder and CEO of Troomi Wireless. It's a mobile phone solution that provides kids with all the good that they need from technology without pornography, predators, bullies, and social media. Bill, I am so excited about Troomi. I honestly did not know about it. And I'm excited for you to share this with the listeners. So thanks for being a guest on Shaped by Faith.
Theresa, thank you. Wonderful to be with everyone today.
Absolutely. Okay, so before you start at Troomi, give us some of your background, like what you're doing, family, faith, whatever you want to share.
Yeah, my most important job and experience is that I have an incredible wife named Heidi. We've been married for almost 23 years. And hard to believe, but we've got 5 kids now and 2 of them are out of the house.
Oh, wow.
So our kids range from 20 all the way down to 8 years old. I'll be 60 when the last one leaves the house. And that's certainly the joy of my life is my family and my faith. We raise our family following Jesus Christ, and that's how I was raised. And wonderful to be able to share that faith with you today.
That's wonderful.
Professionally, I've spent my career up to getting into this category of working on safe technology for kids. I spent my career as a marketing executive, owned a couple marketing agencies, did work for some big companies like Google and Netflix and Pepsi, and made a shift a few years ago saying, hey, I want to spend the rest of my career really tackling a problem that needs some attention, and that's this problem of kids and tech and all the challenges that come with it.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, you have a lot of experience in the field, and I'm so glad that you did step up to the plate and say, yes, Lord. Obviously, he placed this assignment and gave it to you, and you're running with it. I love that. And we should all be doing that. We should all be doing what God has asked us to do. So let's talk about technology and social media before we get into the phone. So how involved should a parent be in their child's social media and phone use? And I say that because, Bill, every time I'm at one of my grandkids' events or I'm out and about or just in the grocery store, these little bitty kids are swiping. Yeah. I'm like, even some of my own grandchildren, they're on that phone, they're on that screen time. I'm like, I don't know. What do you think?
I think parents have got to be absolutely involved. They've got to be vigilant, so certainly, and I'm not anti-tech in any way, because there are a lot of wonderful blessings that can come from technology. The paradox there is that these same devices that kids can use to stay connected to their parents and their grandparents and spread the word of God even. Mm-hmm. On the other side of the coin, it's also a conduit for all the evils of the world to reach our children if we're not careful.
That is true.
So it's essential that parents be very vigilant and aware and involved as they give their kids technology. They've got to be part of that process, not just in the beginning, but on an ongoing basis. So they're training their kids as they go, and they're keeping an eye on things.
Mm-hmm. And that's being a responsible parent instead of just handing them the phone, which happens a lot of times just to maybe satisfy them or pacify them if they're in the car and you're on a trip or something like that. But they've got the whole world in their hand.
Literally.
And you just, unless you're sitting right next to them, you don't know what can pop up, because we know how that goes as adults, just on social media. Social media obviously exploded in the 2000s. When I grew up, there was no social media. There was none of that. There was no cell phones or anything like that. I think we lived a simpler life as
Absolutely.
Kids. We played out in the dirt, climbed trees, ran, drank from the water hose. I loved it. I mean, I can't imagine any other way. And now it's not so much like that. At what age should we, as a parent or grandparent, introduce a child to social media? And that's a big one.
That's a really timely question
Yeah.
because there's finally a lot of research being done. I would point to listeners to a new book. Well, it came out earlier this year from a gentleman named Dr. Jonathan Haidt. And he
Okay.
wrote a great book called The Anxious Generation that goes in very deeply in all these questions. And coming out of that book, he's recognizing we absolutely need to put social media off.
Mm.
Um, the age that a lot of people are coming up with is 16. Personally, I'd like to postpone it even longer than that.
Yes.
Um, and in our own home with our own kids, we've been pretty vigilant about social media and have delayed it just as long as possible. I'll give you an example. I
Okay.
have a freshman daughter at university. She's in her first year of school. She's 17 years old. She still does not have social media.
Mm.
And I just, in my own family and in all the stories that I hear, and I'm on the front lines of this every day, so I hear everyone's stories, and there's just an effect that social media has. I don't care what age you are. It's easy to get into the trap of comparing yourself to others and
Mhm.
focusing on what you don't have
Mhm.
instead of what the Lord has blessed you with. And that's
So
not
true.
healthy.
No, it's not. So let me ask you this, Bill. Does your daughter, is she fine with that? Does she say, Dad, everyone else is on it? I mean, how do you handle that? Or is she just fine with it?
You've got to have a very open conversation about the why.
Hmm.
So her older sister, I'll use as an example. She's
Okay.
our 20-year-old. And the whole time that she was a teenager, all her friends had Instagram and
Mhm.
TikTok and Snapchat and all these things. We were always very clear, we're going to hold off on doing this. And here's why. It was never just well, this is my house and these are my rules. Never that conversation. It
Right.
was always about, hey, here are the concerns and here's why we're going to put it off. So our daughter who's 20 now, we never fought about it ever. Uh, she would ask periodically, like, hey, do you think it's time? Do you think I could get Instagram now? And we finally said yes, just, about 6 months before she left for university.
Oh,
She was like
wow.
17 and a half.
Hmm.
And but even at that, I look at, the effect of social media between, then and now. And
Hmm.
she's stayed away from all the garbage. She's got a great head on her shoulders and she's staying out of the garbage. But I still see, the things that she's thinking about, worrying about. Those change.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, with technology, social media, and these young kids getting on and teenagers, and I think obviously, like you said, the comparison game where you're looking at this or that, and everyone tries to put out their best stuff, whatever that is. And even me as a faith-based fitness professional, and I'm looking, going, what? I can't compare to that. I can't, but God never created us like that. We're supposed to be followers of Him. I think it's so interesting that there's influencers out there, and God should be our only influencer. I just think it's all fascinating,
That's very, very well
Um,
said.
yeah. Okay, so there's predators, there's bullies on social media. Do you have any statistics? And we've got 45 seconds, so we can continue in the second segment. But what are the statistics?
Well, one of the really noteworthy ones is that according to Common Sense Media, 73% of kids themselves recognize they'd be happier without social media. So kids are
Really?
all in it, but they recognize that it erodes their mental health. Absolutely.
Wow, that's
Then you pile all
fascinating.
the dangers on top of that.
Wow. Okay, we're going to get into the phone, Bill. but how important is it? And I know you've been talking about this, but really to drive this home, how important is it to safeguard your child against social media and smartphones?
Yeah, essential to have safeguards. As parents, it's impossible
Yeah.
to do it on your own. Having safeguards in place provides a lot of peace of mind that it doesn't remove your role as a parent, but it sure gives you an advantage in staying on top of what's coming in and going out of that phone that your child's using.
Yes. You know, when we were raising our children, cell phones just got, I mean, they started getting real popular. And I remember my husband and I having this discussion, like, at what point are we going to allow them to have a phone? And we decided, okay, at the age of 16, they start to drive. So if something happens, they're going to need it. You know, that was our reasoning. Of course, they didn't have the internet on it way back in the day. So I remember we gave, but honestly, I think it caused accidents. I think having a cell phone caused more accidents, you know, with teens. Statistically wise, I think that could be proven. Let's talk about, all right, how your marketing career helped you develop Troomi Wireless. And Bill, did God speak to you about this? Like all of a sudden you had this idea, or how did that come about?
So I grew up in a home where my parents were pretty intentional about the media that came into our home. You know, so we didn't listen to music that wasn't uplifting. We didn't watch movies that were filthy.
Mhm.
We didn't, invite the vulgarity and the profanity and the blasphemy into our home. So thanks to my parents and in the faith that they passed on to me, that's how I grew up, and my wife did as well. So as we got married, we were pretty intentional from the start, thinking about how would we be raising our kids.
Mhm.
And in my studies, I had studied a lot about technology, and this is before cell phones, before social media and everything, but I'd always been worried about the dehumanizing effects of technology on humans, and that just blew up and exacerbated with social media. And just as a dad, it was this feeling of there's not this solution out there that meets all the needs I'm seeing, and even for my own kids, this problem needs to be addressed.
Mm. So, okay, so what interested you in developing technology? Was it from that, as far as having something safe? And how did you even go about it? I mean, you were in the marketing business, right? So you were in that. So what was like your first few steps to do this?
Yeah, understanding the market and the need. So as a marketer, I had lots of experience understanding, perceiving a need and then understanding is there demand for it.
Mhm.
If we were to do something, how would we position it? How would we educate people about it? How would we tell the story? So all of those skills absolutely came through. That said, myself, I'm not a technologist. So
Mm.
I have a team of phenomenal people. My co-founder, Dave, our chief technology officer, Joe, you know, together we charted out, okay, what is the phone going to do and not do? And how's it going to provide safeguards for kids and peace of mind for parents? And then from a technology perspective, the team ran with it and created something really great.
That's a really big deal. It really is. How long did it take you and your team to develop this?
Over a year. So, if you go from the very beginning to being in market, about a year and a half
Okay.
to design it and then build it. It's millions and millions and millions of lines of code that went into our operating system that creates this safe phone environment.
I can't even imagine that. Technology involved in that and how to put that all together. But God always gives us a way, doesn't he? When we don't know how to do
Absolutely.
something, he helps us surround ourselves with people that do. Okay, so you've developed this technology. There's a phone now. How does it safeguard a child from the bad stuff out there?
So at any age that a child may be using our phone, we keep them away from pornography, predators, bullies, all the garbage on social media that leads to stress, anxiety, loneliness, and depression. So those are just, the hard lines that we draw. But that said, it's flexible enough that a parent can custom fit it for each child. So a younger child could just have, for example, talk and text only, whereas an
Oh,
older child
yeah.
could have apps they need for school and for church and for healthy hobbies. A younger child, you could say just no internet access, period. And
Mhm.
an older child, you could say, you know what, here's access to a safe web browser that's going to give you the tools you need, but without the risk of all the negative and inappropriate content.
So is the parent kind of like the pilot of the phone where when they receive the phone, they can do all of that and program it, or does your company do that for them? How does that work?
Yeah, so the phone comes really, really easy to set up. So by default, it uses something that we call contact safe listing.
Mhm.
So uh, unless someone is on the contact list for the phone, they cannot reach the child, and vice versa, the child cannot reach them. But we've made it flexible so kids can add numbers themselves. They meet someone at school and they make a new friend and they can put that phone number in. But if you have the settings fully engaged, they can't actually use the number until the parent approves it. We have what we call content filtering. So even if someone who's on that approved contact list, in a
Mhm.
moment of poor judgment, they send an inappropriate picture,
Mhm.
or if in a moment of poor judgment, the child sends an inappropriate picture, it's going to be intercepted and cut. So we're keeping the kids safe from incoming and from outgoing content,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and do that in a very, very flexible way for parents. And they manage all of these settings through what we call the Troomi Parent Portal.
Okay, so you hear of all these different phone companies, okay, AT&T being a big one, and all these wireless companies. I mean, how does this work with, okay, so a parent wants to buy one for their child. Um, do you give them, I mean, how does that work? Do
Yeah.
they go to the store? Do they buy it online? How does that happen?
So we make it really, really easy. So we're the phone, we use Samsung phones, new Samsung phones at a price range appropriate for kids. We're the operating system on that phone, and we provide the phone service as well,
Oh, okay.
with one of the carriers backing us up, obviously in the behind the scenes. So just through our website, people buy a phone, they choose their plan, and the monthly service fee that they paid to Troomi covers the phone service and the safe operating system. We've made it all in one place, so it's really, really easy.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. All right, let me just throw this at you, Bill. What if an adult wants one for themselves? Let's say a grandparent or someone older, you know what I'm saying? And they don't want to mess with all this stuff. Can they purchase one as well? Is it just for kids?
I'm smiling from ear to ear because we have so much more of that happening than I ever would have suspected.
Seriously?
We do. There's actually a movement among 20-year-olds who are backing up and saying, you know what? I just want a minimalist phone. I don't need all the distraction. I don't need all the stuff on social media. I just need something minimal.
Wow.
I've even had people reach out and say thank you. I had one young guy in his 20s say, "I've been struggling with pornography for over a decade, and for the first time, here's a tool that I can have all the stuff I need for work and for other things I need to do, but I can just completely get rid of the easy draws to pornography." So
Wow.
fantastic. I love to hear those stories.
That is amazing, because that would help so many people that are struggling. Wow. Okay. Loving this, Bill. Um, you just explaining what Troomi Wireless is. We were just talking about how adults are actually purchasing the phone. How awesome is that?
It's pretty cool.
just to live a simple lifestyle. Oh, I remember those days. It was so awesome. Okay, so what sort of feedback are you receiving from Troomi?
So we've been in market for 3 years, so lots of feedback. And some of the top themes from parents are just peace of mind. You know, you've empowered me to take control of what has been a kind of a tough thing to manage in my house. So that's great. You know, really positive views on the insight they receive, and yeah, that whole empowerment thing. My favorite feedback frequently comes from kids, and I'll tell you a story of a girl in New York City who actually wrote me a handwritten letter, and she began, you know, "Dear Mr. Brady," very formal. It was awesome, and she said, "My name is so and so. I live in New York. I'm 14 years old. I had gotten into trouble with my iPhone, and my mom took my phone away for 2 months, and I thought I was going to die," she said. And after 2 months, her mom went back and said, "Hey, it's time for a second chance. Here's a new phone. It's a Troomi phone." And the girl explained, "When I realized it didn't have social media, I thought I was going to die," she said again. But then she ended with, "I'm writing to tell you thank you, thank you, thank you. I didn't know I could be this happy."
Wow.
And that's what we're doing. That's what
Wow.
we're doing.
That's incredible. 14 years old, right?
14.
That is incredible. All right, let's talk about the safe browser. How do you keep it safe? The web
So
browser.
up to this point, we've had a browser available. By default, there's no internet, but you can activate the browser if you choose to. And in the safe browser, parents have predetermined the sites, the domains that are available to the child. So they can't just go search the internet, but they get a drop-down list, and there's the school website and the church website and whatever those things are.
Mm-hmm.
In our new version of that that's coming out right away, we're actually using AI to vet pages in real time, so that a parent would say, "Hey, here are all the categories I'm not okay with: nudity, profanity, vulgarity, whatever those, you know, things are." And then in real time, AI is used to vet a page that's been requested and see, does this meet the standard or not meet the standard? And then it's served or not served. But the really cool thing about that is every parent in America has a love-hate relationship, mostly hate, with YouTube and kids.
Yeah.
And I recognize there's so much stuff on YouTube that I just would not let my kids surf that. But there are specific content creators that I am okay with.
Mm-hmm.
And so in our new browser, parents can approve a specific or several specific YouTube channels and provide those, but with no ads, no comments, no links to other videos, literally just the content from those chosen channels. And that's huge.
That
That's
is
going to solve a pain
huge.
point for every parent.
Wow. Wow. Adults need this too.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Do you have any, what about stories from an adult? Have you had any feedback from an adult that's actually used your phone?
Yeah, the stories from adults. You know, I mentioned the young man that talked to me about overcoming a pornography addiction and how helpful this was. I've talked to a couple others. You know, one professional who just wants that minimalist phone experience,
Mhm.
and basically turns off everything he doesn't need and turns off the ability for people not on his contact list to reach him, and just that view on simplicity.
Mhm.
You know, so for the adults that use it, and 98% of our users are kids, no
Right.
question. But for those adults who are saying, "Hey, this resonates with me," those are some of the things that we hear.
Have you heard back from any of the adults regarding their children, like their stress levels have gone down, they're not so anxious, they actually like that one young lady wrote you that she's
Yeah.
happier.
Yes, it's frequently the story of a parent saying, "Hey, with my older child, we didn't do this right. So thank you for the resource to do it differently this time." and they absolutely see the difference
Mm-hmm.
in terms of what kids are getting into or not getting into, and into some of the mental health, consequences of being immersed in screens and social media all the time. They absolutely feel a different experience with their younger kids who are now using a product that avoids all that.
And I think as parents, sometimes when all this came on the scene and it all kind of exploded, and we're like, what in the world, But we're responsible to God in what we allow in our own homes, good, bad, and ugly, just like television, what you're allowed in your home, for kids to watch. So it makes perfect sense that if we give them a phone, we can't expect them to do everything just like, just right. So they need those safeguards on that phone. And I want to thank you so much Bill, for doing what you're doing, and your team of experts that have come together to do this. I mean, it's incredible. So where can we purchase Troomi Wireless?
So just through our website, Troomi.com. That's the best place to learn more about the company, choose a device, choose a plan. Everything's really easy, very affordable, and we've just tried to take the stress out of it for parents.
Well, thank you so much for what you do, and I would love to have you come on again sometime in, towards the end of this year, just to see how things are going.
Wonderful. Would love to.
All right. So thanks, Bill. And thank you for listening. I'm Theresa Rowe. Everyone have a blessed day. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Shaped by Faith with Theresa Rowe. Remember to visit shapedbyfaith.com to find out more about workouts, the TV show, podcasts, blogs, Shaped by Faith products, and much more.